Have you ever cancelled plans, ignored your messages, and felt completely relieved the moment you got home? Maybe you spent the entire weekend in the same clothes, watching the rain, eating the same food, and doing almost nothing. And instead of feeling guilty, part of you felt safe. Society might call that laziness, but sometimes your craving for a boring life is your brain asking for something the modern world rarely gives you: silence. We live in a culture that treats constant activity like proof that you matter. You are expected to work harder, socialize more, answer faster, travel, network, post, achieve, and somehow enjoy every second of it. Even your rest is supposed to look productive. A quiet weekend can make you feel like you're falling behind. But what if the opposite is true? What if your desire for routine, solitude, and ordinary days is not a lack of ambition, but a response to a world that constantly demands your attention? Every notification, conversation, decision, and social expectation takes mental energy. When enough of that energy is consumed, your brain begins searching for predictability. This is why you may come home and immediately want the same chair, the same show, the same meal, and the same quiet routine. You aren't necessarily bored with life. You may simply be exhausted by having to constantly react to it. So when you close your front door, something changes. There are fewer decisions, fewer people to read, fewer expectations to satisfy. Your nervous system gets a chance to come down from constant stimulation. This is why a boring routine can feel strangely luxurious. Making tea, folding clothes, reading a book, walking the same route, sitting near a window, rewatching a familiar movie. These activities may look meaningless from the outside, but their predictability gives your mind room to breathe. And that leads to something fascinating. When the outside world becomes quiet, your inner world can finally become loud. When you're constantly occupied, there is little room to process what you're actually feeling. Silence changes that. You begin connecting ideas. Memories surface. Problems become clearer. You notice emotions you were too busy to feel. You may suddenly understand why a conversation bothered you or why a decision never felt right. In other words, doing nothing can sometimes be the moment your mind finally starts doing its deepest work. This is one reason solitude can be powerful. You are no longer performing for anyone. You don't have to be entertaining, impressive, productive, or socially available. You can simply exist. But there is an important distinction we cannot ignore. A boring life can restore you, but isolation can also hide a problem. Ask yourself what you feel when you're alone. If you feel peaceful, grounded, and refreshed, your solitude may be healthy. But if you feel numb, trapped, afraid of being seen, or unable to leave your home even when you want to, something different may be happening. Peace and avoidance can look almost identical from the outside. One says, "I don't need to be everywhere." The other says, "I'm afraid to go anywhere." One restores your energy. The other slowly shrinks your world. So don't romanticize isolation simply because it feels comfortable. The goal isn't to disappear from life. The goal is to build a life where you can participate without constantly destroying your own energy. This is where intentional solitude matters. If you cancel plans, use the time to actually recover. Put the phone away, take a walk, cook something slowly, read, journal, sit outside, listen to your thoughts. Let your nervous system experience genuine quiet instead of replacing social stimulation with endless scrolling, because scrolling for 4 hours isn't necessarily rest. Your body may be still, but your brain is still being bombarded with information. One video becomes another. One headline becomes another. One notification becomes another. You may finish the night feeling just as mentally exhausted as when you started. Real rest can feel almost painfully boring at first. That boredom is not necessarily a problem. It may be your brain adjusting to the absence of constant stimulation. And eventually, you may discover something even more liberating. You don't always need to be seen. You can have a beautiful evening without photographing it. You can accomplish something without announcing it. You can spend a Saturday doing absolutely nothing and not explain yourself. That doesn't mean giving up on ambition. It means understanding that your life does not need to constantly prove its value to an audience. Maybe that's why you crave a boring life, not because you have stopped caring, not because you have no dreams, not because you're incapable of excitement. Maybe you simply discovered that peace feels better than constant stimulation. A quiet life can give you something the loud world keeps taking away, your attention, and your attention is your life. So the next time you cancel plans and feel that wave of relief, don't immediately call yourself lazy. Ask a better question: am I hiding from life, or am I recovering enough to actually live it? If you're recovering, protect that time. If you're hiding, be honest with yourself and gently find your way back. You don't need a life that looks exciting from the outside. You need one that feels sustainable on the inside. Sometimes the most powerful rebellion against a noisy world is an ordinary evening, a quiet room, and the freedom to do absolutely nothing. If this video described you, leave a comment and tell me what your perfect, boring day looks like. And if you want more deep psychology videos about the hidden patterns behind the way we think, feel, and live, subscribe to the channel. Sometimes understanding why you are different is the first step toward finally making peace with yourself.